Hi everyone, this is Nancy at Sipping N Painting Hampden in Denver. You don't have to live in Denver to paint with me. Thanks for coming and being with me. We're going to paint a cute little painting today called Feline Friends. And this is something you can do with your kids or maybe give it as a gift to one of your kids or someone who just had a baby. It's super cute, a real favorite of kids and families. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be using acrylic paint today. And I always have the same colors, yellow, blue, and red. And where the blue and red have joined, I mixed a little bit of them together, and that made purple. So I always use my primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, and then you can mix from there. And then I also have black and white. So these are just regular acrylic paints, and off we go. I also have several brushes here. I have a small, a medium, and a large flat, a medium flat, and a small round. So these are just really basic colors, really basic brushes, and we're gonna paint this fun and super cute painting, okay? So here we go, here's the painting. It's called Feline Friends. I'm gonna turn on a little more light. Looks like we could use a little more light in here. This one's called Feline Friends. It's pretty cute, don't you think? Put the camera over here a little bit. All right, so we're gonna paint this cute little painting. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I always put my brushes in water and leave them there in between brush strokes. I'm also going to spray my canvas a little bit with some, I'm gonna mist it with some water. You could either mist it quickly like this, or you could just paint it on with your large brush. It's a little faster to mist, so that's what I did. All right, and I'm always going to dab off the water from my brush onto napkins, and I'm going to clean my brush in between each stroke, in between each section instruction in the water, and then I'll dab it on the napkins just to make sure my brush is clean. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a white diamond in the middle of my canvas. Why would I paint it white when it's a white canvas? Good question. Because then when you put on the next color, it's going to blend more easily because it'll blend with that white paint. It won't just be dry and be hard to blend. All right. It's not impossible to blend acrylic paint. You just have to know how to do it. So next, now do you remember I mixed in a little bit of my blue and a little of my red, like that. Mixed it together, and that gave me a purple. It gave me a nice, pretty purple. So mix together some of your blue, some of your red, and you will have a lovely shade of purple. All right, got my purple. Okay, so I'm gonna put white paint on one side of my big brush. I'm going to put purple on the other side of my big brush. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want it to all be purple. So then I'm going to, with the white side, I'm going to paint on. Now, some of those brush strokes came through even though I was painting with the white side. Some of those hairs, those filaments of bristles had purple on them because it came right through. And that's what I want. Now I want it to get more purple as I go out. So now I can start with that purple side, but I'm going to press really softly, really softly. And I'm going to press softly because I don't want a lot of purple. And then as I go, I'm going to apply more pressure with that purple side so I get more purple, more purple. Oops, too much pressure. More purple, because I want the purple to start showing up more as I go out from that center. And notice I'm painting with, you can see some of the blue didn't get mixed into all. That's okay. That's what's fun about painting is I like things to look streaky and not perfect. Because if you're going for perfect, you're never going to be happy. So I like art that's a little messy. Now I'm going back and forth with the purple and the white a little bit. I don't want to keep doing that over and over though, because I don't want it to just blend. I don't want it to just blend. I want those streaks and brush strokes. That's exactly what I want, okay? I want them to be streaky, and I want it to more or less get more purple as it goes out, okay? And you might have to go over this several times to do that, okay? All right. If it's too purple, I can come back in to the center, come back into the center, put in more white in my diamond shape, and then come out without picking up any more paint and just bring it out by going farther out. And I'm going to be laying down more white paint as I do that. Don't over blend. Don't blend this out. We want the colors to be deeper purple on the sides. So don't over blend, okay? Don't go in there and scrub it and get rid of the streaks. And one thing that I noticed is that people who have jobs that are very meticulous, like let's say if you're in finance or if you're an engineer, where you have to be really meticulous, or people who are just very detail oriented at home even, maybe they're real neat people, their home is really neat, they tend to over blend. And so if you're one of those people, you have a couple of choices. You can either know that you do that and deliberately just refrain from over blending, okay? Leave the streaks, leave the streaks. Or you can have a glass of wine. Having a glass of wine helps. You won't be so obsessed with neatness, okay? So if you're one of those people, if you're a cleaner or an engineer or an accountant or somebody who just really likes detail and having everything kind of picky, relax. And another tip for you then would be, if you're one of those detail people that like everything perfect, you probably choke up on your brush like that. I want you pull your hand back here and then paint like that. It'll force you to be looser with your paint strokes. And it'll feel weird. It will. If you're one of those folks, it'll feel a little weird. Now, as I come out, I want to get darker and darker. Now, again, I can go back in and blend a little bit of that into some white so it's not too dark. Don't freak out. All righty. Just relax and enjoy the painting. Just relax and enjoy it. So I put just the purple on as I come up to the corners. Just the purple on. And notice I'm going from one side all the way to the other. Like this. I'll just try to bring it all the way. Now my canvas is precariously perched so that I can get to the bottom. So I get to the bottom of it, literally. So I'm going to be real careful until I can get the bottom done. So putting that darker purple out in the corners, a little bit more out in the corners. Now remember what we did before. Now my canvas is already getting dry. Denver's a dry place, so things get dry easily. So I can spritz it, or I can add a drop of water to my paint, and that'll help move it around a little bit more. So anyway, so I picked up the purple. I put some in each of the corners so I can get those corners good and dark. And remember, I'm pulling this really, really straight, not choppy. I'm not stopping halfway. I'm going all the way from one side of the canvas to the other on these angles. I'm not heading it like that, because if I did, then I'd have choppy marks. I'm pulling it all the way down, okay? All righty. There we go. Now, to make this a little smoother in through here, I can pick up some white on my brush and start to, oh, goodness gracious, I got red. All right, so we're gonna pretend I did that on purpose, and I'm gonna show you how to take care of happy accidents, okay? So the first step in taking care of a happy accident is breathe, just relax. It's only a painting, not brain surgery. No one's gonna die. Relax. I folded up a napkin. And I can wipe this one off. It's not dry yet. So as long as it's not dry, I can still wipe. Will I get all of that red out? No, that's okay. I'm not worried about it. So you can wipe if it's like a long line like this. Now, if it were a completed painting, you probably wouldn't be able to wipe it because you'd make a mess. But fortunately, we're still early, so I can wipe. And I'm just pulling straight down in the direction of the brush strokes. So I can still do that, no problem. You won't even know it's there, okay? Now, so that's one way. Another way is you could just let it dry and then paint white over it. And for those of us old people who remember correction fluid when you typed, long before computers, it was the same thing. And that's giving away just how old I really am. All right, so don't worry that I went into the red. Just don't worry, don't panic. It's gonna get covered over so easily, you won't even know it was ever there. See, you won't even know it was ever there, okay? But what I do wanna do is I wanna make sure that I go back and forth, and that the corners are darker, okay? Want the corners to be darker, and we want these streaks to go out from the diamond, okay? I'm picking up a little bit of white on my brush, and I'm just going back and forth, all the way down, go all the way down, all the way from one side of this canvas, all the way down, all the way down. And you can pick up a little water too. That could help. Boy, it must be dry outside because my paint is drying so quickly today. It doesn't always, and it just, the weather, the humidity outside really makes a huge difference. And so notice that I've got a little purple on my brush, a little water on my brush, and I'm just going back and forth, and this time I am deliberately blending, but I don't want to blend out all the streaks. Don't blend out all the streaks. Leave some of those streaks. So I can put a little more water on my brush. I knocked off the big drops. I don't want any big drops. Then I can come up here and I can do the same thing. I brush a little bit of white paint on it, just a little, and some water, just a little, not dripping. I don't want it to drip and make rain. And I just taking that, whoops, that's right. See, I told you I had it precariously, huh? No problem, brush it out, no problem. No problem, okay. So I'm just gonna go over this a little bit more water. I just use water this time and use the paint that's already there. And it's helping me spread that out a bit. Paint's drying so quickly today. If you live in a place with lots of humidity, you won't have this problem, but Denver's dry. Unless it's one of those years that we get 3 feet of snow. Okay, so this painting has a lot darker paint in those two upper corners, and I'll tell you why it does. When you paint your corners darker, it's a trick. It's a trick to get the viewer, the person looking at your painting, to come into the center. So that's a beautiful thing to do. It's smart. If you are a fan of Bob Ross, which I really am because I teach some of his classes here. This is not one, of course. But if you're a fan of Bob Ross, he did that all the time. He painted his corners darker in his paintings so that it would draw your eye into the focal point. And usually his focal point was a mountain or a lake. And I'm just painting with water. I just put a few drips of water on my brush, and it's just helping me smooth out any streaks that I'm not crazy about keeping. If they're too much, too distracting, I'll brush them out a bit. But I don't want to blend everything away. I don't want it to just be one big lavender blend. I want streaks. So now I'm gonna mix a little more blue and red together A little more carefully this time, maybe, huh? And I'm going to put more dark straight purple up in here because I want those corners to be nice and deep purple. Deep purple up there, just like these are. And in fact, this has a tiny bit of black. So I'm going to put my brush in the tiniest amount of black. How much? About a flea, or whatever amount a ladybug would have tracked in on his feet. So little, so little. And just start way up there in the corner and then go back and forth and come down. And that's just going to darken up that corner a bit. Just going to darken up the corner a bit, but I don't want it to be too dark. Okay? Don't want it to be too dark. I just have to make sure that whatever's last is not a big black streak. Okay, pretty good. And I can use this to darken up this corner if I really want to. I'm going to pull some more on my brush. So again, some more of that purple that I mixed up. And the tiniest amount of black, just a flea or a sesame seed or a rye seed, something tiny like that. And I'm just going to brush that into the corner there and do the same thing that I did to the other side. Just want to darken up those corners a tiny bit more. Ooh, there's a big streak of black. It's all right. Let's work it out. No problem. No problem. You can always get water, blend it. It'll become softer with a little water. No problem. No problem. No problem. Basically, those dark corners, they give me a nice base for the flowers that are going to come on when we're done painting our kitties. And it's going to give a nice background for those flowers. So you won't even notice how dark those corners are once the flowers are on there. See that? All you're looking at is the flowers, really. So that's just black. I mean, just blue. So I'm going to mix a little more in. All right. Nice. Nice. Just don't pick up too much black, okay? Don't pick up too much. I kind of stole some from up there. I can steal it from down here too, and then put it over here. Okay, good enough, good enough. Keep looking at that. I'm thinking I need a little more white in there because that's looking pretty dark in one little spot. So I'm gonna just touch it up a little bit, just a little. Put some purple back in. Sometimes you just have to tweak, just tweak. What I mean by tweak is just, you know, let it dry, put on some more, so you get it where you can live with it, where you're happy. All right, pretty good, pretty good. So now mine doesn't look exactly like the sample. Mine never look exactly like the sample. And you know, truthfully, I don't even care. I really don't care. When I put these kitties on here, it's going to be super cute. Let me show you one more thing. I only had those 3 brushes, but I do want to show you a 4th brush. This is another brush. These don't come in our beginner kits because it's more of an advanced thing, but I just want to show you fan brushes. I love fan brushes. You can do lots with them. You can put hair on an animal with a fan brush, you can do grasses, or you can do blending like this. So if you want to soften it just a bit, put a little water on your fan brush. I didn't put any paint on, but I put a little water on, just a little, and I can use that fan brush to just soften anything I want to soften. Fan brushes are very good for blending acrylic paint. They're also beautiful in oils too, and I use them constantly in my Bob Ross classes. Oh goodness, I picked up some white. That's all right, brush it out. No problem. Relax and enjoy the painting. So fan brushes are really, really lovely. I just love fan brushes. Okay. Just love them. And I could just fiddle with this all day. I just wanted something a little softer than what I had, and a fan brush with just a drop of water on it. Sometimes that's all you need. It does the trick. Okay. I'm going to put all of those brushes in for a minute. All right. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to let that purple dry, but in the meantime, I'm going to pick up my medium flat brush, or medium brush, okay? And I am going to put in this gray mountain here. So hopefully you remember that gray is a mixture of white. I'm just going to take a little pile of white, and I can put some black on the other side, and I'm going to mix it together on my palette. Just black and white. I don't need a lot of it. I need a little more than that, but I really don't need a lot. So I'm going to take it. I always take paint from a side of my pile, not the middle, because I don't want to contaminate the whole thing of any color. All right, so I'm mixing it in, and I'm getting a gray that's kind of close. Maybe I need a little bit more white. All right. This one I want to blend a little bit together on my palette. Okay, and this one, it's a little hill that they're sitting on, and it starts with goes up, and then a hill, and then down, and then another hill. Yeah, and then I just fill it in with my medium brush. Easy peasy, easy peasy. Normally, I would paint the tops and the sides and the bottom of my canvas, but with this blending, I just don't want to take the time. It would be a little bit more difficult. But if you paint the tops and the sides and the bottom of your canvas, then you don't have to put it in a frame to look nice. That's called a gallery wrap. So if I were to take my brush and paint wherever I have gray like that, and on these sides purple and the bottom gray, I would have a gallery wrap, and then I wouldn't have to put it in a frame to look nice. We have about 500 different paintings in our studio, and we have 2 copies of each, so we have 1,000 paintings in here. Believe me, they're not in frames. Could never afford that. Okay, anyway, we are now, this is, gonna set, it's gonna dry, but that'll happen on its own. I'm not concerned about that. I'm gonna show you how to paint kitty cats. Now, what I'm gonna do, I wanna make sure that you can see it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up a little more purple. Normally I would just go into it with white, but I don't think you could see it. So I'm gonna mix up a little more purple on my palette, and then I'm gonna use that so that I can sketch on with my baby brush, and then you'll actually be able to see it. Now, why would I wanna use purple or white to sketch? I would wanna do that because then if I make a mistake, I can blend it out in the background and no one would know. So this is how I'm gonna chisel my brush. Now this purple's not exactly the same shade. It's okay, no problem. So I'm going to chisel my brush by twisting it back and forth. This is my baby brush. Twisting it back and forth as I pull back over the edge, and that's going to sharpen the brush a little bit for me. Okay, so I'm going to first sketch on this kitty, the big kitty, in purple, and then when it dries, I can go over it in black. But by doing it in purple, if I make a mistake, I'll just blend it in with the background, okay? So this shape, I'm going to start with an oval. I'm going to start with an oval, and it's right about here. It's overlapping the center and then part of this right top part of the diamond. So I'm going to do an oval. Oop. There's my kitty's head. The first step of my kitty's head, it's just an oval, okay? And then his jaw is a little bit straight, just a little bit straight. Comes down a little bit more to a point, like that, okay? Just a little bit square of a jaw, just a little bit, okay? And the ears, if you follow around the side of his head and then go up and then down in a triangle, okay? So follow around the head, go up, and then come down in a triangle, okay? And if you make, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Now I can come in with an even more pointy, this brush is kind of losing its shape a bit. I can come in with a slightly more pointy brush later. If you have a finer detail brush, you can be more picky about the exact line. I'm not going to be that picky right now. All right, so I've got his head. It's tilting because he or she is leaning in toward that baby. And now this body is like a zucchini squash. It is not a real cat body. It is a cartoon of one. So I'm just going to come down and I'm going to put a zucchini squash with a crooked neck. I think they call those gooseneck squashes actually, because they look like a goose's neck. All right, or a zucchini squash. And then the cat's tail comes out from his bottom, or her bottom, and it loops up and then down. And just make sure it's about the same width all the way down. Again, we're going to be going over this with black paint. Okay? All right, here we go. We're going to do our baby or smaller kitty. I don't know which. Might just be a younger one that's a friend. It might be the baby. You decide. It's your world, your kitty cat, you decide. Oval. I'm going to make this jaw a little bit squarer. A little bit squarer. I keep loading my baby brush. And then this one's also got a zucchini squash for a body. Maybe this one's going to come out a little bit more that way. All right. And I'm going to give him some ears so he can hear me, or she. He or she can hear me. Up and down. Around, up and down. There we go. And then the tail is going to come out of the body like so. You can make it a little more curvy if you want. And in fact, if I don't like that, I can always make it curvier and then just blend in what I didn't like. Remember, this is going to have black paint on it. So yeah. All right. So now I'm just going to take my baby brush and I'm going to put it in the black paint. And if your paint's starting to get thick, add a little water to it. Add a little water. Mine's getting thick because it's so dry here. Adding a little bit of water so it's more like a thicker ink. You want it to be like a thick ink, not like chocolate pudding, more like chocolate syrup, okay? So this is getting lumpy and that's too thick. If I use that, I'm going to have blobs everywhere. So I'm adding water to this black paint because I need to thin it down. I just picked up a few drops of water and I'm stirring it in. So anytime you have acrylic paint that's getting blobby, add a few drops of water and stir it in real good, so you don't have blobs, okay? And if you're in Seattle or Vancouver or Louisiana or someplace where it's real humid, you probably won't have this problem so much. If you're in a dry place like Denver or Utah or Nevada out west, then yours will get thick too and you need to keep adding a little bit of water. Okay. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to choke up on my brush a little bit so I get more control. Remember when we were doing those lines in the background, I wanted it to be loose, but now I'm going to choke up on it with my hand because I want to be a little more exact. So I'm going to go wherever that purple was And then I'm going to fill it in. Any place that purple is, fill it in. I hear a doggy outside. Maybe he knows we have cats. Maybe it's heard to look like a cat. And he's like, hey, there's a cat over there. And just take your time and go slow. Because if you have a lot of black paint on your brush, you want to go slow and careful because it's easy to put on, it's hard to take off. Once you get the outline, then you can just fill it in. Now, you're watching a video, so if you need more time than I take to fill it in, stop your video and then start it again. No need to rush. And you can do that anytime. Someone's at the door, you need a potty break, you need to go get a glass of water. You just stop it whenever you want, okay? If you missed a step, stop and start. That's the beauty of these videos. Can't do that in an in-person class, although in-person classes are loads of fun. But there are advantages to watching on a video. All right. Cool, huh? All right. Now the tail. Loop. And loop. I'm going to fill it in. Take your time, relax, no hurry. Painting is so good for stress reduction. If you know someone who always seems stressed, encourage them to paint with you sometime because it's very good for blood pressure. It's very good to just teach breathing because you have to breathe when you paint. Yeah. And you'll slow down. Nice. Okay, now this little guy, this cute little guy. Oh, fill it in. A little bit more square jaw, a little more square jaw. And then, now, there's a few little random hairs in this, and you know, I don't know about you, but I just don't care. Because to me, what that says is this is a handmade painting. Someone took the time to paint this for me. That's what somebody would say if you gave it as a gift. If it's too perfect, it's not as good. Perfection is the enemy of art. There are lots of famous artists who deliberately left all of their brush strokes in their painting because they don't want it to look like a portrait. They don't want it to look, or pardon me, not a portrait. They don't want it to look like a photo. So brush strokes say, hey, somebody worked hard on this and it's a piece of art. It's not just a photo of a piece of art. It's real. So just relax and know that if you have a few random hairs or brush strokes, good. That's a good thing. All right, here's my kitty's body. I'm just gonna get a tail. Hello, kitty. Make your tail a little fatter on this side. It's gonna be kind of a fat tail, that's okay. Maybe he's a Persian kitty. Maybe he has a fat tail. Nice, and there's a little bit of shadow on either side, but I don't care. I'm happy. All right, so we have two sweet little kitty cats, and we have our hill and our background, and we're going to be putting in all of these pretty flowers. Now, my colors aren't exactly the same as these colors, and I'll tell you why. The person who painted this painting used fluorescent pink. I don't have fluorescent pink, and I'll tell you why. We have about 50 different colors of paint here at our studio, and we use them for all kinds of things. But when we teach on our videos, we want you to learn how to mix paints. So you can go buy fluorescent pink in a tube. You can do that. It's easy, super easy. And if that's what you want, Michael's has those. Most art stores have fluorescent pink, so no problem. That's one way to do it. But we want you to practice mixing your paints. So to make green, for example, we're going to mix yellow and blue and a little white and mix them together, and we're going to get green. It won't be the same shade of green because it won't be a fluorescent green. And for pink, I'm going to mix white and red. It won't be the same shade of pink. It won't be as bright because this is fluorescent. But I'm going to teach you how to mix your paints, and that's very helpful. And then this blue, I think we'll get pretty close. And then when we add white to it, it'll be that blue. So our flowers will be a little different, but it'll still be beautiful. And again, you have control over your video. So if you decide, I want to go to the store and get fluorescent pink, you can. I'm not. All right, so I'm going to mix together some red and some blue and some white. And I'm going to try for a shade of, whoops. Oh, wait a second. I was trying to make purple again. Guess I don't need that, huh? I do need more white, probably. I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of white here. I never put enough white on my plate. I don't know about you. All right, so I am just going to mix in a whole bunch of red. And whatever color this is, that's what I'm going with. Hoo-hoo, this is scary. Because I ran out of white and I don't want to stop my painting. Well, I guess I could. Anyway, my first flower is going to be this color that I just came up with. And it's going to be a surprise to both of us. But I mixed some blue and some red with more red. That's going to be my first color of painting a flower, okay? And then I'm going to go get some more white so I can show you. Oh, it's like a burgundy. Oh, that's interesting. What's the red on that one? It's like a brick red. And I'm just going to the center. You could put a dot if you want a dot, and then pull to the center, pull to the center. Why am I not going out from the center? Because if I come in, more paint is deposited on the outside of the leaf and less as you go in, because you start to run out of paint. So I'm putting my petals so that they meet in the center, but I'm starting on the outside. Does that make sense? So start on the outside and pull in, and that gives you those rounder petals. You could put 6 or 8 or 12. It really makes no difference. Makes no difference at all how many you put. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of this maroon color flower in there. Lots of them. Lots of them. Then I'm going to make a pretty blue and a pretty green. Then maybe we'll put the centers yellow, because I don't have that fluorescent pink, remember. But again, learning how to paint. I'm going to do half a flower on the side. It's almost like it fell off the side there, see? Learning how to paint requires knowing how to mix paints. So this class is really about how to mix your paints from the primary colors. And it's important to do because let's say you're going on vacation. You don't want to take 50 different colors of paint. You want to take the basics and you want to learn how to mix them so that you can paint anything on the bus or in the car or on the table at wherever you're staying. All right, so I did that. I'm going to let those be for a little while. And I'm going to mix up some green. So I'm going to take my yellow. I'm going to take about half of my yellow. I'm going to leave some yellow for the dots. Okay, I'm going to take about half of my yellow, and I'm going to get a big scoop of blue, and I'm going to mix it in, and I'm going to make a pretty green. Blue plus yellow equal green. It's kind of funny. One time I was watching this TV show. It was old. It was a long time ago. It was called the, I think, $25,000 Pyramid. Older people will know that. But anyway, it's a game show, and it was a little, you know, they had contestants, and they would ask them questions, and if they got it right, they'd win money. And the first question was supposed to be the easiest one when they first came out of the audience. And so they gave them what they thought was a softball question, an easy question. And turns out it wasn't so easy after all. And the question was, what do you get when you mix orange and yellow when you're painting? And unfortunately, this guy, who was so lucky to be called up on stage and probably pass some audience questionnaire or quiz or something to get on the show, he didn't know. And I was heartbroken. I used to teach preschool for 11 years, and I thought, oh my goodness, I taught my preschoolers that. And I felt so bad for that man. He had to go sit down. So, sir, if you're watching this today, I'm so sorry. I wish you were in my preschool. So, a little ball at the bottom for a leaf, and then wrap it around into a teardrop with a point, as pointy as you can get it with your brush. And if you want, you can add a little more yellow to that. It's not quite bright enough, but I still want to leave a little bit of my yellow for the insides of the flowers. So circle, and then come out to a point like that. Circle, come out to a point. It's a curve. It's like a comma. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a comma or a quotation mark. It's like a paisley shape. And these are the leaves that are just fluttering around the flowers. Helps if you say that noise. Whoops. Let's see. How about one around here? La 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 la. La, 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 la. There we go. All right, so if you want, you can also put two of them together because they're friends and they're dancing. You could go whoop, whoop. There's one. Not too round though. And then you could, from that one, you could pull off another one because one's hiding behind the other. Like that. All right, now this is really going to pop when we put on our yellow centers. But I think that's enough green, I think. You think? I don't know. It's kind of fun to paint with green, so maybe I'll do maybe one up here. Like he's fallen. Or she. Or it. I like to overdo everything. It seems my staff teases me. Sometimes they see a tree. It's like, oh, if it had a ton of leaves on it, it's like, oh, Nancy's been here. I like to put flowers and leaves on pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. All right, I'm going to stop. Okay, put my baby brush in the water. Okay, now I'm going to go into my blue. And I put some dark blue first. I'm going to really have to go get some more paint, some white paint. All right, so we're gonna do dark. So these are the dark blue flowers. Then to make light blue flowers, I'm gonna have to go get some more paint. I was hoping not have to do that. Then I have to edit the film. And I'm being lazy. I'm a lazy painter. It's okay to be a lazy painter. You can be any kind of painter you want. Do you see how some of those flowers have 7 petals and some have 5 and some have 6, and it really makes no difference. It's your world. You have as many petals as you want on your flowers or as few, and you just make yourself happy, because that's all that matters when you're painting. And then these side ones, you can always make them go off the side. Boop. Just like they got folded over. And let's see, how about one down here? Boop, boop. He's sitting on a flower. Silly kitty. Silly kitties. Okay, so I went back there and I got some more white paint. And I wanted to show you also, I thought, oh, what the heck? As long as I'm back there, I'm going to grab some fluorescent pink, because we've been talking about it. So if you have fluorescent pink, you can put little fluorescent pink dots on your flowers that are dry. And look at how much that color pops. Holy cow. And you can add a little white to it too if it's a little thin. And then it makes it pop even more. Tiny bit of white. It's like a cotton candy, but it's real bright. It's more bright than Pepto-Bismol. It's just bright. Kids probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Pepto-Bismol. What is that? That's the tummy medicine. You don't eat it. You don't know what it is. Good. All right, so that fluorescent pink does pop, but I could also use yellow. I could also use white. I don't have to use a fluorescent color to make this pop, okay? I just don't have to, because any color that's brighter than the flowers that it's on is going to make those flowers pop. And when I say pop, what I mean is stand out, be noticeable. I'll show you. All right, so I put my brush in the water. I'm going to show you. So I could use yellow to make some of those flowers pop. Let's see. There's a yellow one. I need a little water. Sorry, sometimes with the yellow, you need a little white in there, because if you don't have white in your yellow, sometimes the yellow just doesn't show up well. So if I just mix in a tiny bit of white in my yellow, then the yellow shows up. It pops more. You can see the difference, a huge difference. See that? Little bit of white in your yellow and things go pop, 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 pop. And my yellow's getting thick again, globby, so I had to squirt a little bit of water in there. All right, so where else? So we can have some yellow dots and some pink dots. It doesn't really matter. Just so long as you have dots and you like the color, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. You put whatever color dots in there you want. It's your painting. And I touch in the middle and then I circle out. And if you have any globs, you'll get globby circles. And I'm putting in 3, but you could put in 5, you could put in 9, you could put in 4. It doesn't really matter. Just so long as you have some bright centers, either white or yellow. You want to see what it would look like with a white one? Let me put one more yellow on. The yellow stands out really nice on these dark red flowers. But let me clean my brush and I'll show you what it looks like to have one in white. All right, white also works. Dot, dot, dot. Doesn't that stand out nice? Yeah, that does. So we could put some of those in there too. Yep. Doesn't matter, white, yellow, bright pink, it doesn't really matter. The whole idea, you can even put black. If your flowers are brighter than mine, you could put black centers. Yep, you could. As long as it contrasts. What I mean by contrast is as long as the paint colors that you're using are very different from each other and they just stand out from each other. I am not a fussy person. I didn't go to art school. I learned to paint when I was 50 and I'm 57. I learned because I started painting Bob Ross. And then again, this is not Bob Ross, far from it, but you can paint it at any time in your life. I had a guy in here one time, he was 84 and he came in with his family. They surprised him on Christmas Eve and they rented out the studio and they had me teach him a painting class because it was on his bucket list, his lifelong dream to learn to paint. And he wanted to paint like Bob Ross. So on Christmas Eve, he got his wish. They brought him here. It was a big surprise. It was really such a lovely thing to be involved in. And son of a gun, that guy learned how to paint and he painted beautifully. And he was so funny, I'll never forget. He said, I have never painted before except the broadside of a barn. And I said, good, because we're going to paint a barn, and it's Bob Ross painting today. He didn't think he could do it, but he did, and he did a beautiful job, and I'll never forget him. So you can use yellow, you can use white, you can use black, whatever centers to your flowers you want. And you'll see now that my flowers have popped out, and now they have a lot more personality than when they did before they had little centers. And I still need to give those kitty cats a face because they want to smile at you. All right. Now, if I wanted, now that I have bright pink, I could, you know, let me just do it. I'll just show you. Since I happen to have bright pink laying around now, because we've already done our lesson in blending, you know, of mixing. So you know that pink, red, and white make pink. But I'm going to go ahead with a little bit of that fluorescent pink. And I'm just going to put in a few more flowers because why not? Because we can. Because flowers make me happy. Do they make you happy? They make me really happy. Flowers make me happy. And I hope they make you happy too. So you can just put in a few of whatever color you have laying around. Boop, 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 boop. Now, some paints like this pink or the yellow, they don't show up well. They don't have enough pigment in them, I guess. Maybe it's because my paints are kind of cheap, but that's okay. I like to paint with cheap paint to teach because if we make mistakes, we let it dry, we paint over it, and I don't have to worry about a thing. But if you can afford good paints and you paint a lot, they will have more pigment in some of the colors and it's easier to get that coverage that you need. Put little eyes on my kitty, on my sweet little kitty cats. The eyes are just slants. The nose is just like the bottom of a triangle, or the top rather. It just won't go across. It's not a full triangle. And then from the bottom of the nose, you go down a bit, and then a little half smile to that side, and a little half smile to that side. And there's your little kitty's face. We'll do the same thing on this cute little guy. Ooh. And ooh. And little nose. Cute little nose. And then a little line. And then a smile. Yeah. Maybe I'll fix that smile. If you mess up with your white paint and your little brush, just go back in and do it again. And sometimes I take the little dab of paint on my stick of my brush and just touch up a little tiny bit if I need to, like so. All right, so I have white paint and some of those flowers. Oh, I remember now, before we had that visitor come in, I was putting pink flowers on and I was telling you about paint. And so basically, if you have a paint that doesn't have a lot of pigment in it, you can just let it dry and go over it again. and then it will stick to itself better than it's stuck to the original canvas. So there's always a fix when you're painting. You just have to practice and learn the fixes. Always a way to do something. I need to start some Bob Ross classes because you would really love those on YouTube. Oh my goodness, those are really great. And we can do that now. Certified Bob Ross instructors can do it online now. We didn't used to be able to do that. So I guess there are some things that are okay about this pandemic. Now I can show you some Bob Ross classes online. So I'm just putting in some more of these brighter flowers just for fun. You can stop if you want, but I thought as long as I had that paint here, what the heck, might as well. I'm looking for balance, and what I mean by balance is I want there to be that color in different spots so that they're not all in one place, all up and not down, or on one side and not the other. So I'm just making sure that that color is represented in different spots around the painting, and maybe there's part of a flower up there. Okay, all right. I told you I'd go crazy with flowers, didn't I? So I'm gonna let that dry a bit. One other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my little brush. You could use your baby brush, but this one's dirty, so I'm just using this one. And I'm just gonna put some random little spots of any color you pick. You could use the yellow, you could use the pink, you could use white, you could use black, it doesn't really matter. And I'm just putting some random little circles. I'm doing them in pairs of, or groups of 3, and I'll tell you why. When you're painting anything natural, whether it's flowers or an animal or a mountain or a tree, whatever, you don't want it to be too perfect. So your eye looks at things and expects pairs if it's not natural. Because objects that are man-made tend to be in pairs and they're symmetrical, but in nature, everything's odd. And so you literally, when you're painting nature, you want to use odd numbers of things. Now, sometimes I can use 3 dots, and sometimes I can use 2, and sometimes I could use 3. But I want things to appear more random in nature, so maybe I just have 1 there. But just remember, my tip is, if you're painting in nature, don't do anything symmetrical, and don't do anything always in pairs. You want even numbers mixed with odd numbers, or just odd numbers when you're painting in nature in general. Now, if you're painting a painting of 2 trees and you really want it to look like a painting, well, then you're going to have to go for 2 trees, right? But 3 trees of different sizes tend to look a little more realistic and a little more pleasant. But you decide. It's your painting. It's kind of funny. I learned these rules like that. And then when I watch Bob Ross paint, he breaks rules all the time, and they still look fantastic. So the moral of the story is, you do you. You do what makes you happy and what you think, because you have in your head an image of what you think is beautiful and what you think is fun and what you think is inspiring, and you are the only one that matters. And you know what? When you show it to other people, they'll probably love it too. Because not every rule has been invented yet. And tastes change. You may know this if you're an art fan, but at one point in history, realism was really popular. Everyone painted things realistically, and then along came Impressionism and abstract painting, and suddenly the whole world was turned upside down in art, and then people had to really learn to appreciate something new. But we are the lucky recipients, and we have all kinds. So I could go crazy, paint lots of different flowers on this, but I think this is pretty crazy enough already. The only thing I'm going to do left to mine is I'm going to put a little more pink paint on those ones that I did once and they weren't thick enough, so I'm going to put a little more. And then when those dry, I'm going to put my dots of white in the center. But you don't have to wait for that because these might take a while to dry. But I just wanted to show you all the different techniques for putting in some simple flowers and for blending a nice, let's see, what word would I use? It's a stripy background that has texture in it. And how to copy a shape. These kitty cats are cartoony, they're not realistic. And so just by looking at this one and thinking about placement, all of that we talked about. And this is, aside from these little pink flowers that just are getting a second coat, and then they'll get little white dots in the center. My painting is done. I've had a great time painting this painting. I hope you enjoyed it too. It's very relaxing. All this dabbing that we're doing is so relaxing. I got a little random line there. That's okay. Doesn't matter? Not at all. Doesn't matter at all. And even these little red flowers, they could use a little brightening on those dots too. Remember, I put some pink dots, but that pink, like I said, if it's not mixed with white, it doesn't show up real well. So, okay. I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with my painting. When you're happy with your painting, now, okay, so how do you know when you're done? Just stop painting. If you like it 80%, just stop painting. Just be done. Just call it done, and you'll be done. All right? So, I'm going to take a little brush, and I'm going to just put my initials down at the bottom somewhere. I like to put mine on the bottom, right? Makes no difference where you put yours. Put them wherever you want. If you want to put a little row of pearls on the kitty, or you know, you can do whatever you want. I'm finished. I'm going to call it done. And I loved painting with you today. I hope that you enjoyed painting this cute little painting called Feline Friends. If you enjoyed painting with me and you want to see more painting videos for free on YouTube, then just like and subscribe down below in the video. Like this video and then subscribe, and you'll get notifications on your computer every time we post a new painting. And then you can come back and paint with me anytime. I'd love for you to paint with me again. All right, so thank you so much. And before I go, I'm with Sipping N Painting Hampden, and I'm going to sip my water because it's the middle of the day. And cheers to you. Thanks for painting with me. Bye.